1 Samuel. Welcome to the book of 1 Samuel, a story of transition, leadership, and the quest for a king. This book isn't just about the rise of Israel's first kings. It's about the tension between human desires and God's will. It explores the complexities of leadership, the consequences of disobedience, and God's faithfulness in guiding his people. The story begins in a time of spiritual decline. The era of the judges has ended, and Israel longs for strong leadership. The people clamor for a king to lead them like the nations around them, but God has a different plan. Into this scene enters Samuel, the last judge and a prophet, whose life marks a pivotal point in Israel's history. Samuel's story begins with Hannah, his mother, who is barren and prays earnestly for a child. God hears her plea, and Samuel is born. Dedicated to God's service, Samuel grows up in the temple under the priest Eli. As a young boy, he hears God's voice calling him, signaling the start of his prophetic ministry. Samuel becomes a key figure, the one who will anoint Israel's first two kings and guide the nation through this critical transition. As Samuel ages, the Israelites persist in their demand for a king. Despite warnings that a king will bring both hardship and loss of freedom, they insist. God relents and instructs Samuel to anoint Saul, a tall and impressive man from the tribe of Benjamin, as Israel's first king. Saul seems the perfect choice, leading Israel to military victories and gaining the people's admiration. However, Saul's reign is marred by disobedience. He repeatedly fails to follow God's commands, and as a result, God rejects him as king. Saul's downfall serves as a stark reminder that true leadership isn't about outward appearances or initial success, but about obedience to God. Meanwhile, God directs Samuel to anoint a new king in secret, David, a young shepherd from Bethlehem. David's journey begins humbly, serving Saul and playing the harp to soothe the troubled king. His rise to prominence comes with his courageous battle against Goliath, the Philistine giant. Armed with only a sling and unshakable faith in God, David defeats Goliath, becoming a hero in Israel. This victory elevates David in the eyes of the people, but also ignites Saul's jealousy. As David's fame grows, Saul becomes consumed by fear and paranoia, seeing David as a threat to his throne. He makes numerous attempts on David's life, forcing David to become a fugitive. Despite being hunted, David refuses to harm Saul, acknowledging him as the Lord's anointed. This period tests David's character, showcasing his deep trust in God's timing and his respect for God's authority. His patience and restraint highlight the difference between his own faithfulness and Saul's impulsiveness. The climax of the narrative arrives with Saul's tragic death. In a desperate battle against the Philistines, Saul is wounded and chooses to take his own life rather than be captured. His death marks the end of his troubled reign and clears the path for David to ascend to the throne. Yet the transition isn't immediate. David continues to wait, relying on God's guidance for the right moment to become king. The story of 1 Samuel is one of waiting and trusting in God's plan, even when the path forward is not clear. Beyond the historical account, 1 Samuel delves into the nature of leadership, the perils of pride and disobedience, and the importance of aligning with God's will. Through the lives of Samuel, Saul, and David, we witness the contrast between human ambition and divine purpose. Saul's downfall warns of the consequences of straying from God, while David's rise offers hope for a leader who embodies integrity and faithfulness. Ultimately, the book reminds us that God is the true king, and his plans will prevail, even when human leaders falter. As we reflect on 1 Samuel, we aren't just exploring ancient history. We're engaging with timeless themes of leadership, faith, and the longing for a righteous king. This narrative points us toward the ultimate fulfillment in Jesus Christ, the King, who reigns with justice and righteousness. The journey through 1 Samuel is filled with challenges and uncertainties, but it also brims with the promise of God's enduring faithfulness. Thank you for joining us on this journey through 1 Samuel. This is the Bible, book by book.